YouTube. What's going on? This preaching. So, let's get my PM done yesterday, right? And when they was, I use Southern Tire Mart. You know, that's part of Pilot. And so they was doing my PM on my truck, and they noticed I had an oil leak. I'm like, here we go with an oil leak, right? They did it last month with no oil leak. They did it this month, and then they noticed an oil leak. So they all up under there with the light, trying to figure out where is the oil coming from, because they can't figure out where the oil is coming from, right? And it's hard because my engine is black, so it's hard. But they got the light on it, and then it was raining, so everything is wet, so it's hard for them to tell where the oil is kind of like coming from. So they know it's an oil leak coming on it because it's oily down there, but there's no drip. There's no drip nowhere. So while they doing all the lubing and stuff like that, you know, checking the brakes, the drums, the air, all that kind of good stuff, they just waiting, right? So they had a cardboard down there, try to figure out where it's dropping from, and they couldn't figure it out because they waited like 45 minutes. They left the oil change to the very end, changed out everything else. The only thing they had to do was drain the oil and then a new oil filter. So after like 45 minutes, we looking on the cardboard and stuff, no oil dripping nowhere, but it's a leak, and it's a noticeable leak while it's up under there. So they tried. I give it to them. They tried. Then they got out and they looked on the engine. They had the light, and they looking, and I'm looking too. And then I noticed that there was some moisture that was dripping over the exhaust manifold, right? So then I'm looking. I'm like, well, where is this moisture coming from? So then I take it and I smell it. It smells like fuel. So I'm like, oh Lord, here we go now. Now where's this fuel coming from? Because a while back in November, I had replaced one of my fuel crossover jumper lines. So I thought, well, maybe the other one is leaking. But I'm like, no, it really can't be leaking because that's way in the back, and it's not wet back there, so it's not coming. So then I looked at my fuel cover plate, right? Because that's in front of the head. Now I had that replaced, I don't know, maybe back in September or last year. I had that replaced on the road because that plate broke. And then that was a whole doozy on that one. Find out, you know, went to the TA, they didn't know what they was talking about. Had to call out a mobile mechanic out. You know, I had to pay him $565 for him to come out. Really, man, that's your fuel cover plate for a $3 plate. He went back to the shop and got a $3 plate and came right back. Cost me $565. Yeah, I was mad at the TA, really pissed off at the TA. So then we looking, and then you really can't know if fuel's coming from there until you turn the vehicle on, right? So we couldn't find the oil leak, right? So they went on ahead and put oil up in it, started it up. When we started up, went back and looked, and fuel was coming from the fuel cover plate. So I'm like, man, what is going on with this? So then it's like, well, want me to take a look at it? I said, no, I'm going to take a look at it because I don't need y'all to charge me for something that I could do myself. You know, y'all want to charge me more money for this. You know, no, that's okay. Just charge me for the regular PM and stuff, and I'll troubleshoot it and things like that. So that's what we did, right? So I pull out, get back underneath the trailer, open my hood back, and I need to make sure that the fuel is coming for the fuel cover plate. So I get the brake cleaner, I clean up the whole area, get it all nice and dry, and I'm sitting there just watching it, and just so I could see it just a little bit bubbling out the fuel cover plate. So I'm like, okay, well, it's not the plate itself. So I take the plate out. It's just 2 screws. That's all it is. It's 2 screws. That's it. 2 screws. That's it. You can get a screwdriver, unscrew it, The plate ain't nothing but like that big. It's really ain't nothing. So that's why I wasn't gonna have them, spend time on it and want to charge me for a half hour of labor and all this other particular stuff. It don't make no sense for that. So then I'm looking, and one of the O-rings in it is broke. So that's why the fuel is coming from them. So of course they didn't have any of those O-rings. So I'm like, okay, all right. They don't have no O-rings. They put it for that size. They're real small O-rings now. Okay, they are real size O-rings and stuff like that. So I was like, cool. And then you just can't put any O-rings in there too. Okay, it's special ones you got to put up inside there. It's all right, cool. So I took the screwdriver and I tightened it really, really, really tight, right? And then that stopped the leak. Now that's just a little quick fix. You're gonna need to replace the O-rings, but it's probably, I don't know, 2 minutes to fix, 3 minutes to fix. So then I was like, oh, and then this all happened yesterday, right? So this morning I turned the truck on after I do my pre-trip, and I'm looking to make sure I'm not leaking no fuel out. And I'm like, okay, cool. No fuel's coming out. It's still nice and dry, but I know I need to replace those O-rings. But I did order some O-rings yesterday. All right, so they are already at my house. They had shipped it to my house. But to be on the safe side, I also had ordered another crossover jumper, fuel jumper plate, and I also ordered another fuel cover plate as well, along with screws and O-rings. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to replace that fuel cover plate that I have. I'm going to replace those screws because I got 2 new screws to go in, and I got the proper O-rings that goes inside of them as well to seal that up. So they UPS just sent it to my house, and I'll be home tonight so I could do it tomorrow morning before I leave out to deliver my load when I get home tonight. But far as the oil leak go, so now I'm looking up under the truck, and I still don't have no fluids down there, but it's an oil leak. So I'm trying to figure out where is this oil coming from, right? So the engine is just running and stuff like that. Nothing going on. So I finished running, and I made it here to my stop for my direct shipper load that I got, right? And then they got a whole bunch of white dirt out here. It's no asphalt. So I go and get my paperwork, and I come back. And when I come back, I notice it's a drop up under there, right? So I climb up under there, trying to figure out, okay, where's this drop coming from, right? So then, all right, I'm gonna leave the engine on, right? I ain't gonna turn the engine off, so I'm gonna leave the engine on. So I get up under there and look. I know it's not the real main seal because all that got replaced and everything. Then I look up under there, order's not coming for the real main seal, right? So I got my light and I'm looking, and then I'm saying, okay, it is some oil, and I'm just looking. Then another drop had fell down. I was saying, okay, and it dropped on the left. So I look again, and over where I put my starter in it, I noticed that my starter on the right side of it, okay, it got oil all on it, but on the left side it doesn't have none on it. So on the side of the starter, I'm like, okay, and it has a whole bunch of oil on it. And then those wires where I got my put my starter hooked up to, those are oily too. So I'm like, okay, so it's coming from somewhere around there, right? Somewhere around there. So then I get out, I go out and I look where I put the starter at, and I look back there, and back where my cam follower is, that gasket is leaking, right? And it's leaking kind of bad. So I'm like, okay, so that's where the oil is coming from, right? It's coming from that fan follower gasket. So now I got to replace that cam follower gasket. And y'all don't know nothing about that. That's very hard to do. Okay, that's very hard to do. It's very hard to do. It's easy to do, but it's hard to do as well. So I ordered the kit for the cam follower gaskets, and I'm gonna go ahead and just replace all 3, right? And so that's gonna be about an $800 repair, because you're paying for labor, because you got to take so much stuff off just to get to it. So you're paying for labor, right? And I'm like, I needed to make sure, because before, a while back, I had an oil leak coming from that area, right? But it wasn't the cam follower that was leaking back there. So I forgot what the name of it is. It's something else around there that was leaking oil a little bit. So then I just had to replace that little screw that goes up in it, right? And that wasn't nothing to do. It took them about 30 minutes to replace that screw. A screw just came out or something back there that was causing the little oil to seep through. So they did it. Now I thought it was the cam follower back then, right? So, but it wasn't. They checked it out and everything was fine on the cam follower. And then I didn't have no more leaks for a while, because like I said, I just replaced my starter a while back. And plus they did my PM last month too. The same person did it too, right? So everything was fine. It wasn't no more leaks and everything like that. But this time for sure, it's the cam follower. And I thought about it. I was like, well, no, we checked that and it was fine. So it can't be the cam follower. So I'm not thinking it's the cam follower that's leaking. I'm thinking it's something else. It got to be, it could be coming from out of the head back there, off in the back, and dripping all the way down on the back of the engine. That's causing it to drip down there. You know, I didn't know what it was. But yeah, so the kit cost me, to get it shipped, expedited at that, to get it shipped, it's still gonna take about a week to get, week and a half to get. Then my mechanic gonna have to fit me in whenever it comes in. He don't want to make an appointment until I actually get it. So, and so that whole kit and everything to get it shipped costs $54. But again, it's gonna take about maybe 6 hours. 6 hours to do, just to change it out. And I can't do it. All right, that's a little bit above my pay grade and things like this, because you got to get it set in right. You got to get shimmied in right, along with the other gaskets, because it's a whole kit. You got to match it all up, because it's your cam follower. Okay, y'all don't always Google that, so you just can't just take it off and just put it on another one and just throw it back in there. It's timing. You got your timing got to be right on it. So you need somebody who that has all these specs, and I don't have all these specs. I don't know. And plus my shoulder and arm, I can't stretch my arm out like that to do all that stuff. And my dad, he's too sick to do anything like that, to do it. And he's the one telling me, like, nah, son, you don't want to just do that. And it's not something that I could just tell you how to do, because I have to see it, I got to measure it, I got to do all this. He telling me all the process you got to go through. He said, just pay the mechanic. So I listened to my dad. He said, pay the mechanic. That's what I do. I pay the mechanic. So yeah, man. So that's my oil leak story, man. All right, man. I'll talk to y'all later.